And we're back. Brendan Cunningham here, the real estate doctor at EXP. With me, my man, Matt Paul. He does it all. You know, last time we were here, we were talking about, the real estate doctor and all of that, but about bedside manner.
Yep.
Really important. I just saw an article that talked about 15 things that people don't like about real estate agents. And number 3 on the list was my agent's MIA. I never hear from this guy. What's that all about?
Yeah, communication.
And you know what? And I always say, what is that all about? I mean, if you're going to be in this business, you have to stay in touch with your clients. It's as simple as that. Because much like the doctor is going to be checking in on you every 4 hours, things change very, very quickly in a transaction. And I always say the real estate market is one thing, but the real work starts when the electronic ink is dry.
The contract is signed.
That's when you really have to go to work, and you don't want your agent to be missing in action at that point. What's happening? Did we have an election?
Yeah, we just had an election. We're still here. Can you believe it?
I'm waiting for the sky to fall. Right? It hasn't fallen.
Hasn't happened yet.
I saw something and I said, you know what? Why isn't anyone talking about that? First day, the stock market. What happened? Okay, let's go back to 1987. 1987, the market dropped dramatically. Not only was it called a dramatic drop, some people called it catastrophic and a crisis. It dropped 500 points in one day.
We've seen that.
Yesterday was the first full day that Donald Trump was president. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm just saying these are the facts. The stock market went over 500 points. So if it's a catastrophe to go down 500 points, I guess it must be a good thing if it goes up 500
I
points.
have to say, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and what other things are going to be happening over the next 4 years? That's what it is. But there seems to be some positive things coming very early in the game.
Yep.
So,
With the uncertainty that we didn't know, it looks positive so far.
And the other thing we know is statistically, and we look at statistics a lot in our business, after every presidential election year, prices tend to go up.
Yep.
Interest rates tend to go down slightly, but we're gonna have a little bit of a roller coaster, I think, on that.
Yeah, I think
But
due to the inflation. And stuff.
whatever. But the prices are gonna go up. And as we had a little discussion before we came on the podcast airwaves here about affordability.
Yeah.
We're talking about all the statistics you see out there.
Yeah,
What do you say?
yeah. So on Realtor.com this past week, they posted a map of the U.S. and they gave a rough estimate of what you need to bring in terms of a salary in order to purchase a home. And in New York State, it said $189,000 and change. Well, we were talking, that's definitely not in the Western New York Buffalo market. That must be more.
If you're making $189,000 here, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and you can afford a really nice house.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You can afford a house probably in Spalding Lake at that price.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So
For those of you that don't know where Spalding Lake, it's like where the mega nice houses are. It's one of the nicer neighborhoods
in Clarence, New York.
in the surrounding area of the city of Buffalo.
Yep. So when people, buyers see that statistic, I just don't want them to be discouraged because that number is pretty far off for our area.
Yeah. One of the things that I took in college, I took a course, I had 2 degrees, psychology and sociology, and then I went for my master's in leadership and organizational change and all that jazz. But I can remember the toughest course and the best course I ever took was statistics.
Yeah, me too. Yep.
And
I loved it.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And we have statistics all over the place. But I remember the one quote from H.G. Wells who said, "There's 3 kinds of lies: lies, damned lies, and statistics." Because you can tell any story you want with statistics. And when I see statistics, I always want to say, well, how many people did they survey?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the sample group size?
Yeah, the demographic.
The demographics.
Yep.
And you really need to get behind the numbers to understand what people are talking about. So that's where a really good agent comes into play. Because they can say, well, yes, I know Buffalo, according to Zillow, is the hottest market in America.
Yep.
Second year up. What does that mean? It means there's not a lot to sell.
Yeah.
High
demand.
I'd sell you in about 2 seconds.
Yep,
I'll stick a
yep.
sign in your head. There's just not a lot to sell out there. And everyone wants to be here because the quality of life is so good. And the weather is spectacular.
Yeah,
I mean, right?
It's a balmy 1 degree out
That's
right
right.
now.
It's bomb. We're having a heat wave. We're up to 1. But hey,
Yep.
it's snowing in Corpus Christi and Houston,
Florida,
Destin. I mean, really, all
Yeah.
over. So So the weather's great, and the Bills are going to the Super Bowl.
We are.
We are definitely doing it. The fever is on.
Yes, big time this week. It's everywhere.
You know, it's like when we have immigrants up here, the first words they learn is, "Go Bills."
Yep, that's it, and the shout's on.
That's right, and the
Yep.
shouts on.
We're
All
excited.
right, we have a drop-in guest. It's a very special drop-in guest. We probably should have had it on for a maiden show, since he's really the reason why we're all here. It's, you know, like, how did you get in the real estate business? We usually like to ask that. Why are you with EXP?
Yep.
And I'm with EXP primarily because of our next guest.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm going to invite our next guest to drop in out of the sky.
Welcome.
He was the youngest real estate agent to ever be the president of the Buffalo Niagara Association of Realtors. He was Realtor of the Year in 2024. And this is one of the sharpest young men I've seen in the real estate business in years. Take it away, drop in from the sky, Joel Husvar.
Well, I didn't bring my cape, Jens.
Yeah, well, you have to borrow Josh Allen's cape because he's using it really well these days.
Looks like we're gonna have to get some real good editing to figure out how to make people fly around in this place.
All right, so now you've been in the business for how many years?
Oh geez, 2006, so 19 years.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize that long. But I do
Yeah.
remember when I first met you, it was probably about 8 years ago. So you'd only been in the business, let me do the math on that.
Too long.
It was too long.
11
But
years.
even having only been in the business a relatively short period of time, like 10 years or so back then, I think you were like number 7 or number 8 in the entire system with other companies competing. Am I right?
The best ranking we hit was 6.
6. Okay.
Number 6.
This is for a young guy, a young Turk that doesn't know anything, right? And
Supposedly.
obviously,
Hey, I knew how to Google things.
obviously he does.
Google was
And he had a
around at
business
that point.
that came from out of nowhere, and he reminded me of the line in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. If you remember the movie,
I remember the
here's the
movie.
line. Who are those guys? Who the hell are those guys? Yeah, so he had a wonderful business before, and then COVID hit, and your business did pretty well during COVID.
We actually flourished during COVID.
Yeah.
When so many other people were going and
Closing offices.
They were
Literally.
closing down. They were buttoning up the hatches. We said, how do we reinvent ourselves? And we really, video. We fully immersed ourselves in video. We did all of the Matterport 3D walkthroughs, and we instead of saying like, oh no, the sky is falling, we said, how do we do what nobody else is doing? And as soon as we embraced that, that's when we really started to scale. And luckily now we're post-COVID and on to our next chapter. It's really exciting.
And then maybe about a year or so, you had a conversation with me, and you told me what you were thinking of doing, and we took a ride to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And
It was a blast.
And we had a great time. And we drove up to Toronto, hopped on a plane. It was one of the worst planes we've ever been on. It was awful.
We rode with the cattle.
Oh my God! But we got there to the first EXP convention in Canada ever.
First
We were like, I think, the only Americans there.
By far.
And we were exposed to the power of EXP. And what we quickly realized, and I'm sure you realized it a lot faster than I did, was all of the things that you had done to make yourself COVID-proof in your previous business, EXP was doing in spades.
Yeah.
And they had kicked it up a notch beyond anything that I'm suspecting you could have ever dreamt of.
I remember talking to one of my mentors, and he said, where do you see yourself 10 years down the road? And I said, hopefully one day to be like EXP. So the other thing he said to me was, do you want to keep having your large piece of a very, very small pie, or do you want a small piece of a monstrous pie? And once the lights turned on in 27 countries and 90,000 agents later,
Every state in the union.
Yeah.
everything we got, I realized, not you can't beat them, join them. It's they took us in with open arms, and they just put rocket fuel on our business.
I agree, 100%.
And the thing that I like about it the best is it's not a franchise.
No, no, it is not.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not a
Well, I mean, how many people can say that their CEO and their founder were ringing the bell at NASDAQ yesterday?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we just got arguably one of the largest builders from one of our competitors joined us as one of the announcements. They had a 7-figure income and said, you know what, leave it all, I'll start all over again with EXP.
Yeah.
And to walk away from 7 figures takes a lot. And I mean, they had 3,200 people. I mean, that's the entire Buffalo MLS. Everyone in
Yeah.
Buffalo
Yeah.
was just in her sponsor, like she sponsored them.
Wow.
So
Walked away from it.
walked away from
Yeah.
it.
So that goes to show you that that's somebody wanting to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's chose to do that, which is awesome.
Yeah, and the other thing, what's interesting, I think, about what EXP is all about is there's a big discussion these days. It's almost become like a catchphrase: transparency. Like we want the government to be transparent, like it's been for the last 4
Yeah.
years. Not, but don't get me started. But yeah, transparency. And as far as transparency goes, and then in the real estate business, they really want us to be transparent about our fees and all this. It was a big change in the industry, the way we work with our clients back August 17th. And it's ironic because we really haven't had to change that much, if almost nothing, because as a publicly traded corporation, they have to be transparent to the point of insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got to disclose the kind of toilet people that they use. I mean, I use the double ply. What do you use? Well, you know.
It's funny you said that because I was talking to an agent yesterday that's considering joining EXP,
Right.
and I said, look, there's no curtain. You type it into Google, anything you can imagine, and it's there. It's public knowledge. What's your split? What's your team? What's this deal? Can I get a special deal? Can you do this? No. Here, it is what it is.
It's what it is.
This is what our option is.
And that's the same for everyone.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
And one of the main reasons that I felt EXP was such a good cultural fit for us, both
Yep.
you guys know,
Yep.
that's how I ran my business.
You know what? It's interesting. In one of my previous incarnations, I was in the franchise world on the service side, and they used to talk about, to make a successful acquisition, you had to have a good cultural fit,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and sometimes you didn't, and the franchise didn't work.
Yeah. You can't force that.
You can't force it.
No.
And your culture before EXP was pretty much the same culture. Almost,
Yeah.
and very little was different. They had just more expanded use of this.
Oh, yeah.
Technology.
Their technology piece was
that's
big.
what helps when you have almost
big.
$200 million in the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sure does.
Yeah. So yeah, and the cultural piece I found very attractive when I first met Joel in the previous incarnation, because he had a culture of collaboration. And if there's one thing that distinguishes this group
Yeah.
of agents, this company, from all the other agents I've ever worked with, across the board, all 50 states, really is a culture of collaboration.
I agree 100%.
Absolutely.
I've never seen it like
Yeah.
this anywhere
And
else.
part of the reason is because we're all owners in the company.
Yeah.
We're all shareholders.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's not just me scratching your back. If I scratch your back, it's gonna be good for me
We're
down the
both
road.
benefiting.
We all benefit.
Yep.
You know, we're all pushing the same rock up the hill.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
It is.
Challenges that you're anticipating this year.
So this year, I follow all of the forecasters, listen to the CEO,
We all do.
Professor Young, you look at everything, and obviously Zillow called us the #1. We're the hottest market in the country. I do think that interest rates are going to play into us a little bit. I think they're going to be helpful, and we've been told this year is going to be better than last year. But this is really turning into a contact sport. One of our favorite coaches always says, real estate is a contact sport, and it's not, physically we're not getting into fights. It's making contact with as many people and helping as many people as you can. So I see there's going to be a huge difference in agents that are truly hands-on helping their people all in, and the ones that are thinking 5-6 years ago when any clown that could pass the test could sell a house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a different market, and there were cases, let's be truthful, there were cases where you could literally just stick the sign in the ground and,
Yeah.
people would show up and buy
Yeah,
it.
business was
Yeah.
landing in your lap.
You didn't
Yeah.
have to have great skills to sell the house. You did need to have good skills to get the best price for the seller,
Yep.
to negotiate 40 different deals
Absolutely.
sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, 10 was like, the
Yeah,
low
low.
number.
Yeah.
Why'd I only get
was
10 offers? What'd I do
People
wrong?
saying that,
Yeah.
I only had 10. Shut up.
Yeah.
Go back to the 80s and the 90s, if you had one deal, you would say.
10 months on the market.
You would say no Venus.
Yeah.
I was getting renewals at a year-long contract.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're gonna see maybe a little market time makes drag a little bit longer. As I think you're gonna see people, they're gonna have to learn some skills if they didn't get them in the last couple of years.
Skills-based.
And the
market.
good news is, even before EXP, you had a skills-based company.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of time working with agents to get their skill sets up.
A lot of
Oh,
training.
well-
We have endless amounts of training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, yeah, like have the brochures. I mean, so, I don't know how much you guys know about my backstory, but I started this whole sales thing in life insurance. And it was a company that was created in the early 1900s, and they said, look, if you say this, you say this, you say this, that's going to present the product the best way and help the client get what they need. And we did the same thing. We made the brochures, we made the buyer's guides, the seller's guides, and then, thank you EXP, they improved what we already had. And it really is like having the skills, knowing what to say, and really taking care of your client.
Yeah, so the
And taking
follow-up.
care of the client is, that's really the key.
That was the other thing we were talking about prior to, going online today, was just about the contacts and how many times you have to contact a client. And, we're like, oh, most agents, when they probably contact a potential lead once, and you're like, nope,
Yep.
0.5. So, I mean, you really just have to show up and do the work. You really do in this market.
Yeah, I mean, I chuckle because I said, well, it's probably one or less, and you're trying to, I think you said it's 0.5.
0.5, yeah, so-
And I thought, it's like when they talk about population growth or decline, like France has 1.7 births, and I say, well, what's a 0.7 child look like?
Yeah.
Is that a midget or something? I don't know what's going on. I don't know if that's correct. But, yeah, so
Yeah,
0.5 contact is, oh,
Yeah, what?
So NAR says, because we get so many opportunities, right? Like people are clicking on our websites, they're following our blogs, they're doing all of our stuff, and they're saying, hey, I have an interest in a house. The statistic from NAR says an agent to be successful has to reach out to that client 8 different times and or ways. Calls, text, email, 8 a.m., 9 p.m., or not 9 p.m., but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
All different
And
times.
the average agent calls every other lead once.
Oh,
It's
that makes sense.
it's sort of a dirty little secret about our business. And the flip side of that is that makes this somewhat of a difficult business because you got to kind of chase people sometimes. And we don't like to chase people,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
sometimes that's the way it is.
Yep, yep.
You know?
Well, you got to catch people where they are and what they need.
Yeah.
So if you're calling an overnight nurse at 8 a.m. and she just turned her phone off,
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
you're not going to get her.
No.
But she still needs to buy or sell her house.
Mhm.
And if everybody else is only calling her at 8, she's going to get left on being helped.
Yeah. And there's an incubation period with the process, especially with buying. It's somewhere around, I think, between 13 and 18 months where somebody gets the idea, I think I'll move to Florida. Well, by the time they actually start, they may even actually start looking at stuff online, but they're not going physically looking at it.
Yep.
They're not in Florida.
Not getting
They're-
pre-approved.
They're not
and all
doing
that
any of that.
sort
I was gonna say, you're not
Yeah.
going
Until they get the pre-approval, they got nothing.
Yep.
Yep.
They got nothing. And I always like to tell people that I work with, here's the deal. First thing you need to do after you talk to me is you gotta get pre-approved. Think of it as your boarding pass. You're not getting on the plane. You could have a ticket, but you're not getting on the plane without the boarding pass. Without the pre-approval,
Yep. Yeah, you're not making an offer.
you're not making an offer, you're not doing anything.
Yeah, you got to get through security, right?
Even if you got TSA, I got TSA, you got
Yeah.
all this
Yeah.
stuff, you ain't getting on if you don't have a boarding pass.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And without a pre-approval, and people want to see it. They don't want. No one's taking your word for it.
No.
Well, I've got it. I'm making $1 million. Yeah. Where is it?
Right.
Show me.
Yep.
Attach it to my contract when you send it over.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. So we got some challenges in moving forward through the year. We may have some inventory issues, interest rate issues.
Yeah. I mean, from the indicators say that it could balance a little bit, go down a little bit, but I think it's still going to be floating in high 6s, 7s,
Yeah.
Still would be an improvement from where
And you can always wait. I saw somebody. Well, what should I just wait? You can. you're just gonna pay more.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and we were looking at some numbers last week, and I said, well, you know, even if it's only, 3% more that you're gonna pay, well, on a $300,000 house, it's only $9,000 this year,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's another $9,000 next year, so
That's-
wait 2 years, it's $18,000. What would you do with an extra $18,000? Because
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. And finance too.
I was just gonna say
More.
7% interest.
Oh, yeah.
18,000,
I don't wanna hurt the public too bad.
At the end of it, you're paying a lot
It's just-
more.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna buy, you buy.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
Well, and we joke about it, but they always say, when's the best time?
Today or 20 years ago, just
Yeah.
like planting a tree.
Yep,
Right.
yep.
That's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
And if you need bread, you gotta buy bread.
Yeah.
And if you
Yep.
don't need bread, don't buy bread.
Yep. Yep. If you need a house, you gotta buy it.
Yeah. And 80% of the market never goes away anyway, death, divorce, and transfer. So, that's always gonna be there, and so we will always have a market. It's that extra 20 that we have to find.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that you would like people to know about anything that you're doing this year? With respect to
Or
real
is it all a
estate?
secret?
Wow.
Classified information.
Well, I mean, it's one thing that I can say is another gift that I got from the company was I got my time back. And time is, I've had coaches, I've had mentors, I've read every book there is to read. Time is the most valuable resource.
Mhm.
So, and how you invest it is even,
More
yeah,
valuable.
that's the brand.
Yep.
So, with my gift of time that EXP gave me by not running the brokerage and the back end and compliance and etc.
Didn't you love all that part?
So, you know what? I was so good at it that I didn't realize I didn't like it until I didn't need it. And so, what's the latest and greatest? I'm actually back in the field now. And the best part of that is I'm giving way more listings, way more opportunities for our agents to be doing in the field. We have more open houses, we have great content coming out, but also I feel like I'm more relevant.
Mhm.
Because selling 1 or 2 houses a year is great, and that's what I did for the last 10 years, friends and family, stuff like that. But now reaching out and jumping in the trenches and making my 10 phone calls before 10 every single day without a shadow of a doubt is really helping me remain more relevant.
Yeah.
So get ready to see more signs.
And I think you're not only can, but you will see more signs for sure of the EXP brand, not just locally, but all over the United States. 94 countries.
No,
27
27 countries.
27 countries, 90,000, yeah.
90,000, yeah. That's a lot.
Sure is.
It's a lot.
It's growing.
With a goal to 1 million. So we're only 10% there.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's amazing when you talk to people that haven't heard about us, and it's like, well, we're only like the largest company in the world.
Well,
yeah.
We're on the stock exchange, but that's how people are. So
Yep.
Depends on where you are.
depends on where you are.
Exactly.
So we're gonna wrap up,
Yeah.
and final words.
Yeah, thank you for everyone tuning in again. Please like, comment, follow us, and subscribe, and let us know if you have any feedback.
And we want to keep this real because we're the real realtors, and we want you to get the real story. Joel, last call.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day, guys.
Hasta
Thank you, everyone.
luego.